Oof da May. Whew. Work continues on my 73 Plymouth Duster back here, and I've got a big goal to get this thing fired up right now. It's going to be a lot of work to get there, though. We've got accessories to finish. Charging system, cooling system, transmission cooling lines, fuel system, ignition system. I've got a drive shaft that now maybe fits because it's shortened from being shortened before, but it wasn't short enough. And we're even going to test multiple different big name mufflers on the car before we finally choose one and burn in a custom exhaust system. That's a lot of work to do, and to be honest, we got a little time to do it, so let's jump right in. Oh, hello there. Hey, listen, if you're just tuning in on this build, I get it, but I urge you to check out part one. It'll catch you up into the here and who's as to where we're at in this particular build. And as a friendly reminder, I'm actually giving away this here vehicular. Any $5 spent at vicegripgarage.com gets you one entry for a chance to win this thing. And you can also find all the small print rules and no purchase necessary details over at vicegripgarage.com as well. That ends December 4th, so quit hitting the snooze button on the old alarm. You just got to get over there and get it done. Speaking of getting done, we're going to jump right into this thing. Easiest thing I can do is finish up the fuel pump later over here. I just got to connect the line from the actual rail line thing on the frame to the fuel pump. We could cross something off. Then I think we're going to move on to the charging system. So the guy's going to snip right in here and snag off this line. You can see here that the old fuel pump Make It Happener was recessed farther in and clocked a little bit differently. Replace this with new rubber, new clamps, get that plugged in, boom, done. And then we'll deal with this Dr. Seuss looking configuration a little bit later. When we first put this in a Dart, we were chasing either a fuel or ignition issues, and we think we chased it down to, we just had a really weird random bad out of the box fuel Make It Happener. So I think I can clean a lot of this stuff up, but that's further down the road. Once I get this plugged in, then we'll move on to probably the accessorize and the charging system. Now, thankfully, I know from, driving the rig around, or experience, you could say, the fuel tank on this is good. In fact, I think it was previously replaced, so we don't have to worry about that. I know the lines are good. We just got to replace this little rubber chunk here, extendalize on it, and I also want to bump it up to 3/8 because this engine here is going to need all the fuel she can get her mitts on. Well, the guy does have that just whipped out. Whew, man, that was a lot of work. Not really. Go for the easiest first. Okay, moving on. We got to get a charger whirler in here so we can get this belt figured out. And then we still have a power steering situation I also have to figure out. Now, I robbed this charger whirler for, I believe, vanishing paint, and do not remember how any of this goes back together. So that's going to be the challenge. Is I've got, I guess, 4 bolts, that little bracket. I got to figure out how it sits in here. There's a turnbuckle here. That looks homemade-ish. It's probably something I made. I don't know. So let me stare at this for a minute, try to figure that out. In fact, I might take this off and run a longer piece of rubber. Actually use that chunk down here maybe. Save, $1. Get this filter more up here. That looks in a really bad position if the guy wanted to swap it on the road or something. Got this swapped out quick. We'll figure out length later. So looking at this thing, I guess there's really not a lot of options here as far as holes and things like that. So I'm thinking this must go on like this. This obviously goes through here, but I'm missing a spacer. We'll pretend we don't need that for now. And then this, being it's threaded, must have something to do with that turnbuckle. So let me struggle for a couple hours, maybe a day, I don't know, it could be a month, and see if I can figure out if this is going to go on here. Yep, I think that's it. A couple things here to notate. Write them down. Go ahead, I dare you. This bolt is not going to go through here with the new digital fans. It ain't fiddleizing. So I'm going to have to take these loose, or maybe off, slide that. Wait, how is that going to work? I'll have to slide it into this far enough. I'll have to basically partially assemble it, slide it in, and then put these in with the turnbuckle. I think is what's going to happen. Anyway, long story short, I also need a spacer in here, which I'm sure is laying in the grass somewhere, so I need to measure for that. Disassemble everything again, go make a spacer, and then reassemble everything with a ghetto spacer, and try to get all this lined up appropriately. Ties the way is. I'll be dipped. I can't get that bolt on because it hits the fan. And neither can I get that one out, and this one can't go in. So do I gotta take the rad out again? I don't know. I'm gonna keep fighting on this, but something super easy like this should take 5 minutes is gonna turn into 7 months. Great. Well, eventually got this figured out. Here's that spacer I'm gonna have to make, or this is gonna want to waller and walk. This 15445 belt, which would be 44.5 inches, for whatever reason is now, I can get it on the pulleys, short. That ain't gonna work. And this is up against a fuel pump, so I need like a 50 to get a little bit more room in here so I can actually use this turnbuckle, which is gonna bolt in down here. Let me check the wall. As sad as it is, this isn't something that I inventory. These are all belts that I take back off of cars if they were newer and then I'm not using it, or power steering belts that I take off, or just belts that I've bought that were too long or short but didn't want to return, and I've just kind of collected them. Wow, look at that. Right up front. That's very similar to what's on there. So I might have a couple. Oh yeah, I've got some options here. Those are all pretty well GM charging whirler belts, but this one might work. Got this stick of 3/4 round aluminum just from Tractor Supply, and this should work fine. I think that might go over that spacer on the back of the charging whirler. Just going to measure this out, use a tubing cutter, snip it off, and we'll slide it in and see what it looks like. Well, wouldn't you know it, all the belts the guy has, none of them are fitting. Too long, too short, had to order one up, and that'll be here in a little bit, but we're going to keep moving on. This spacer looks great. It's going to do the deal. Got my socket stuck in there, that's fine. We'll wait till we get the belt on. Finally got the turnbuckle loosened up, so that's all ready. Moving on to the digicals of the situation. Remember, this was a slant 6, a leaning tower of power. All of this was hidden down there conveniently where it's impossible to work on. Out of this nightmare here, I only need 3, I believe. These 2 guys here for the charging whirler, and this guy here for the charging whirler. I believe this conveniently runs through the bulkhead fitting and then the amp meter in the dash, which burns the car down. So we'll leave that alone. These, I believe, were dummy light for oil pressure, ignition coil, no idea, temp sensor. I'm going to trim all of this up because we're going to figure something else out with the gauges. I'd like to update on that if we can. So I'm going to neatly trim, pull some of this back, tape it up, clean this little stub of a harness up, and then get this all plugged in. Got to find hardware for that quick. When the belt comes, we'll toss it on. Then we'll move on to the power steering. Yeah. Okay. Okay, sure. All right. Seems fine. Okay. Oops. Wonder what Joni Messina's doing. Oh, wait. Actually, I think I do know. She just announced a tour, I think. I'll be tipped. Going back out on the road. I wonder if it comes around these parts. I would go. Just saying, I would. Okay, I need some digital tape. Digital tape time. We upped the amperesses of the charging whirlers here because we put the digital fans on, so I bumped it up. I can't remember if it was 100 or a 110 from the other one. So that's also more good layer for the rig here. These don't pull a ton. It's just the initial start when they first fire up, you know. It's just nice to have that extra security. Plus, are we gonna run digital gauges? And I don't know. I really don't at this juncture. Sure beats cleaning all this wiring. You just wrap new tape over the old tape and BAM! Restored. It's kind of like restoration with the rattle can bomb thing. All right. These fenders are inconvenient. You put junk up here and it just keeps rolling right down in there. Okay. Boy, these are brittle. Well, the charger whirler's in there, got her wired up, just waiting on that belt, but we could do that some other time. Now with the PS pump, it's in there, believe you me, but we ran into issues with the hose there. Picked up another one to see if this one fits. We get all that plumbed in, so we fire this thing off. We're not just shooting juice into the atmosphere. Apologize about the equipment noise again. Lots of work going on around here. This is the hose I had. This is the one that I guessed and ordered. Let's take a look at these. So this I knew had the wrong end unless I tried to find some special fitting to adapt that, and it was also a little bit short. So I did the right thing and just Googled, you know, A-body or Mopar power steering hose, and everything like Mopar, of course, is marked up $754,000 more than it should. And there's also 93 different options depending on the color of the vehicle and the wind speed outside. So this is the one that I could guess based on the potato images online that could work. Length, fittings, I knew this fitting worked, so that was a given. But this is the style fitting I believe I need with an O-ring, kind of like the factory hose to slide on in there. I just don't know what kind of a turn, why is that happening? So let me stare at this for a minute, see if I could fit this in. We're going from the pump up to here. The return is low pressure, of course. That'll be easy, just some clamps and regular rubber hose. So I believe this is what I'm looking at. And by golly, I don't know, we might have her licked if this fitting is right on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and put an O-ring on it, over torque it, and then I guess we're gonna have to just pressurize it and see how bad it leaks. With any luck, it'll spray all over the header and that'll light a fire, so it's pretty good. Let's see, that one's tightened. Guy shot a little juice on her with the old Earl can here. We're gonna bend her around. Let's see if this will actually grab or bite or do something. What is in my mouth? What is this? Anyway. Probably the wrong threads. I need a different water neck outlet. Hey, I think it's going actually. But can we over torque it? That's the question. It seems to be still tightening. Is it going to eventually bottom out on something? I don't know. I also don't know what day it is, so I don't know a lot. It doesn't feel right. Feels loosey-goosey. Yeah, I think this will be fine like that. And then I'm going to use this 225 pressure line and high pressure clamps. You don't have to do that, but let's try to do it right. Well, we've got the charging whirler and go left, go right pump figured out. Moving on to one of my least favorite items, which is transmission cooler lines. Hindsight being 3-4, I should have probably laid these in before we dropped this engine in, being as how tight it is in here. I've got 2 sets here. This is a handmade set for 727 with the rubber front end, and then this is a OG original set right here. That's the transmission side running up to the rad. Between the 2 of these, I'm hoping I can fandangle one of them in, and or I might have to cut these and flare them and run some rubber line, maybe on the outside of the power steering gearbox there. I'm not really sure yet. I'm gonna get it up in the air, scan, and then stare, procrastinate, scan again, and then figure out which one of these is gonna work for us. Probably neither. Perfect. Well, I was actually able to fish these through here, believe it or not, and it is really, really tight. It just took a lot of time and even more patience. And this will work pretty good. I need to put 1/8 inch NPT up here. And now I'm just gonna do bubble. I cut these off because there was fittings on it. There was the wrong size fittings. Need to do some bubble flares. Just a single flare on these. Might try to pull this out again if I'm feeling that risky. I'd like to get them on this side too so we don't have a trans cooler line pop off on us. That is not good. And if you're not paying attention, we could burn up this new transmission really, really quick. Got to get this flared as well, that little elbow there. Hope that I can get the lines up high enough they're going to be out of danger. Actually, this might be too... I gotta rethink this. I don't think that's gonna work. So this is a flare I'm going for right here. I'm doing operation 1 only on this 5/16 line. So it's not so sharp and I can still push the rubber over it. So I think I can work all of these in, hopefully. This one's got a bend on her, but I might be able to straighten it out in this clamp. Let's see what happens here. By golly, plus George. I think I got her straightened out. Yeah. See what it looks like. Yep. Perfect. One down. Let's get this one knocked out quick. Perfect. Oh, this one's going to be a little tricky. Hip, ha, hip, ta. Easy. Nailed it. Okay, now I just got to get that little piece off that was on the transmission already. See if I can put a little bubble flare in that. Put it all back in the car, and then we got to figure out how to run rubber lines without lighting them on fire. That would be handy. Yes, it would. Believe you me. This is that piece here. Well, it's not going to fit in my machine here. I need at least this much. So I think I'm going to cut this cobbled up set of lines over here, back here, and that'll fit in there, and I can flare that and use that. And then these will promptly go into the trash after I cut off all the other ends and throw those in my fitting box, because a guy just never knows. So here we go. I think a guy has all of the pieces necessary to get this thing hard lined, and we'll just figure out the rubber as we go. So I've got the lines run up here. Gonna have to make a clamp for them, and then just swoop around the bell housing like this, Once aiming up, we're going to go over all this linkage. We still need to do the kick down and all that. And then this one, I will try to run into that. I got to put a little bit tighter of a bend in this guy and get it aiming more this way, ish. And then we'll have a short piece there. And then we'll go up over all this gobbledygook and keep it away from the exhaust and the levers. And then we'll tie in the rubber. And then up front, it's going to look something like that. They're not obviously sitting right, but so it should be fine. Well, lines are all done, and gotta be honest, turned out a lot better than I had thought. Actually, I haven't done the lines up here yet. Just gotta run into town quick, get these fittings, and then we'll button this up. Then we should probably do the lower rad hose while it's right in my forehead. Get that over with. Well, the guy did go on ahead and figure while I'm down here. Let's go ahead and put in this drive shaft. This is a new, shorter than previously shortest drive shaft. Anyway, this one should hopefully slip right in, if I can figure out how to run tape. Okay, just start tearing stuff. No U-joints, of course. Okay, that's looking mighty fine. I need neutralis. Oh no, shift linkage is hooked up. Let's unhook it. Well, can I reach anything in this zip code? Sawtooth shark plier. Yeah. Never see that clip again. Fine. Okay. There we go. Yep. Yeah. There. That's more like it. Yep. We got plenty of engagement, and we also have room when the rear end sinks. It's essentially driving that drive shaft forward into the transmission. So you want a little bit of backer hinder player in there, and that went swimmingly well. Boy, we're just knocking this to do this right out. Nope, it's still a mile long. That's great. Drive pole in. Hey, now I think we can lower this rig back down again and start attacking the top side. There's still a lot to do. Front cooler line's done, belt is on, lower rad hose is on. Now some of you may have even noticed, wait a second, this is a Chevrolet water neck even. And yep, it's got a milled adapter in here, but we're gonna flip it over to a top mount again. We'll see if I can get it into the original intake, but I'm thinking it's a Chevrolet top mount. We might have to use this adapter, and then we can run the proper hose up and over here, and then we've got the cooling system done and the transmission cooler line done. I can get the power steering belt on, accessories are done, and we're getting pretty close to moving on to ignition and fuel, the two last things we need to fire this thing back up again. Well, as luck would have it, this is the old one there. This guy, I didn't realize until I cracked her open, is an LS housing. This O-ring actually goes to this one. So this ain't gonna work. And check my inventory, which is also just known as a box of parts on the floor. Do not have one, but let's go check the engine piles. So the one off Independence here has already been borrowed to Charlotte. The NASCAR is AN, that won't work. Nope. Gonna say that doesn't fit. Ooh, wait. No. Aha! This is a Smogger 454. This could work. Let me knock this off quick. We'll take a look. I'll be dipped. Big block Chevrolet. Going on. Got a little sidetracked. We are making some of these spring cups, and these are actually for Charlotte, the burnout truck. I've cut out some 5-inch plate. This is 3/16, and then we'll be, you get the deal. Because we're swapping rear ends. Well, I'll show you. Was able to dial in some help. Called Chad and Donnie, a volunteer muffler. They were nice enough to come down and help. I'm so far in it with the Duster right now. Completely almost forgot we got Lamolets coming up. I need the burnout truck ready, and there's a list of things to do, so they're up here helping, and it's just a big blessing. So the rear end has been removed from Independence, and don't worry, yes, this car is coming back, and it's coming back better. Huge plans for this. That's why we've been scavenging some parts. So this is the rear end out of Independence. The guys are stripping it down right now. It needs to be reconfigured, basically. And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, well, why are you putting a 10-bolt in the burnout truck? That doesn't make sense. Well, see, we've already ran 1,100 horsepower through this thing. Street driven it, drag raced it, done burnouts. It's fine, okay? The other issue is this rear end that's in the truck, or was in the truck, we can't get a gear set for this thing. It's all cobbled together. It's got truck axles and a weird third member, and it's got an old True Track posi in it and C-clip eliminators, and it's just really hard to get the gear set we want for burnouts. And I was really leaning on this thing the last burnout we did. I want to avoid that. So we're going to temporarily roll this to the side, and we're going to put the Independence rear end into this, and that's where we've got to move the spring cups. We got to make these. I've got to cut out some brackets for the limiting chains, and do some other stuff. These guys are going to clean this up, swap the oil, pressure wash it, completely rebuild it, and by that I mean spray paint, DE 1634, and then with a little hammering and bending and torching, this should slide right in. Also on the list is a compression check. We're putting new sparkulators in it, and going to change the oil and filter as well. Kind of just do a once over on the thing. It's still just been bagged up and sitting here since Bristol, when we brought home that beautiful big old bald eagle trophy. A lot more competition coming. It's going to probably be the biggest burnout competition yet in Florida there at the Freedom Factory, so we just want to make sure the truck is dialed as best as possible. Whipped up some brackets for the limiting strap. That's what those will look like. Washing up the axle here, but I don't have a water spigot. We got a hose hooked up. It runs up the hill. We filled my fertilizer tank with water. It's working. I'm going to take a new SAD cable here and button that up right against the head over here. That should work. And we'll drop in a lightning cube. Then we got to start testing electrical. I think I want to do the ignition system first, get all the digitals done before that fuel make it happeners in the way over here. No sense of working on that because we got a wire in this coil. This is a Petronix, a single wire, and we're going to be moving from the electronic ignition stuff that Mopar did. It's fairly simple. I'll show you guys here. Okay. Oh yeah. I'm going to drop in a new battery. I said it. We're putting a new one in. Dusters need a very specific battery. No, it isn't. This is a Premium poster on the right side. Okay. What? This thing's rocking more than Elvis. What's going on here? It's got mistreated. Falls right in. Battery terminal cap. Is this one broken? Well, help me understand this. Why isn't this working? Well, that one did. It should. Wow. Okay. Fire test. Commence. So I got me handy dandy little test light. Boop. You hit something that's got. You hit something that's got juice. Boop. Okay. We've established that. Ignition control module box. It's controls the ignition. There's wires that connect to it. This one also came with the optional RPO code Dirt Dauber. It's pretty nice. And then we've got a 4-post ballast resistor because of mopar life. And then wires that run to would have been the coil and the voltage regulator. Subsequently, the alternator and your dash. And this relay here and the starter and the battery. Somewhere in some museum exists a wiring diagram. No one really wants to look at it because it doesn't make sense. All you need to know is when your dash light's on fire, you're probably not charging at that point. Mopar life. What we need to do is we need a hot signal to our ignition coil, which is going to fire off our new lightning whirler. Most vehicles, it's as easy as taking your coil wire, removing the ballast resistor in some cases, and you're done. Well, with Mopars, we need to find a hot on and a hot crank. There'll actually be 2 different wires we need here, and then we're going to take those 2, barrel them into one, and send that over to our coil and distributor. Piece of cake. All we need to do. Jam this in here. Ignore the crunching noises. You'll see nothing is happening. Now we're going to turn the key on. On. Got juice there. Got juice there. They're tied together. Need to snip that. Got juice? Nope. Got juice? Nope. So one of these 2 is going to be my on. Okay. So what I'm going to do is come in here, snag this little devil out of here. Well, it ain't that one. It's this one. It's still not this one. Oh, whoa. Oh. Well, for crying in the mud. Anyway, it's this one. This darker greenish one, this guy. And it also, the fitting just burst into powder and this fitting came out. So we'll just reuse that. We're going to ignore this one. Now, we need one on crank, because on crank, this shuts off. Because Mopar. We kind of talked about this earlier. They're welding over there and the lights are... I feel like I'm in a movie set or something. Twilight Zone, X-Files or something. Okay. Some of you are so young you probably don't even know what X-Files is. Google web it. I'm thinking it's going to be this one. Can we crank this? Are we ready to just No, I ain't got an Earl filter in it yet. Such is life. Pausing all of this, I gotta lift the car up, it's finished changing the oil, and then we'll come back to this. I don't need to crank it, I just don't want to dump oil on the floor. Make sense? Got it. We're back. Disco relay. Watch this light now. When I go to crank on it, boom, 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 boom. It's a pretty like solid Shakira beat was kind of what I was going for. So we definitely know it's this one right here. Is this going to be extra crunchy too? Yep. So there's the 2 wires we need. We don't need the other 2. We're going to tie these together, and with their powers combined, they are not Captain Planet. They are Mopar Start. Okay, what is this wire actually? It's doing nothing. I guess I can just completely take that out. Progress, my friend. Oil coming down over here, B1, oil. Oh yeah, it's just me. Anyway, dropping this quick, and then we'll put the filter in. Well, you got to put that in from up top. You know, as per usual, and truth went on ahead and be told, this engine back here probably only has 860 miles, 914. It's very, very, very low miles. Oil's fine, but just wanted to change it for peace of mind. Look things over, just make sure we didn't have any metal chunks or filings or anything like that in it, which we don't. Everything's good to go. And then just make sure it's absolutely fresh so we can test it in this car and this drivetrain, put it around with it, and just make sure we're fresh for the new owner. I'm gonna let this quit trickling out, lower it back down, get the filter in it, back to wiring again. Sweet. Checking in on the fellers over here in Charlotte, and they are hauling. The Independence 10 bolt is in. We've got our custom made spring cups in. We've got the chain limiting strap tabs in. They're moving the shock mount, lower shock mount. Welding that in at the moment and getting down to the end here. Well, I think it's time here. A guy just puts his front tooth to the log splitter and just gets after the wiring here. There's quite a bit to do, but I'm just going to break it down into parts basically. We've got the ignition, which we've identified the 2 wires we need. I'm going to bring those into one, run that over to the coil, get the coil snugged up, disconnect this, tidy all that up, boom, we're going to call that good. Now the charger whirler we put in is an external regulator unit, or it requires an external regulator. That box is going to be left alone. Now over on the starter side, I do need to address the neutral safety switch. This had an automatic, so that's going to run to a brake switch essentially. I'm just going to cut into that and loop over that wire from the starter relay right to the negative post of the battery here. That's going to ground that out and make that happy, so that works. I got to run another wire for the tachometer. I'm going to send that through, get that done right away. And I need to send yet another one for the digital choke. And then I've got the electronic fans. Cold Case has this nice relay kit. This is everything you need. I'm going to mount that somewhere over here where all this other junk is and make nice short runs, tie all that in. We'll have a temperature sensor going up over here. We'll have our SAD cables, of course, and then our positive running down to the fans. I could take both fans and just do a chassis ground. Probably under the car would be neater, or somewhere on the frame. Figure that out a little bit later as we go, but I'm going to jump in, see how much I can get done here. Well, the digital is all but done here. Only a few things left to do. I've got to tie in my 12 volt switch inside. I'm going to do that here in a minute. And then I've got to run a SAD cable here. over to the body. And we've got to hook up our 12 volt to the fuel make it happen, of course. That's pretty much it. I'm going to go inside, figure out my 12 volt switch, get that done. I don't have any more of wire, this stuff here. I'll have to run on the town for that a little bit later. And then we can start working on fuel, and we're so close to getting this thing fired back up. Basically just going to be poking around in here. Oh no, my light's dying. Figures. Try to find something with 12 volt switched in there. Also can remove this. This is the old chocolator cable. Don't need that where we're going. We got a digital one now. And then anyway, I'll hook these up. Blue is fan. And what was this one again? Well, that's tack. But there should be a red one. There it is. Found it. That's chocolator. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Well, poking around in here, and that spade right there, that open one, is a 12 volt switched. This is the back side of I tore the whole fuse panel down. So I just need to tie into that, and then we'll just barrel these two together. Good to go. Excuse me. These two. Should probably label them. Nope, let's burn it down. Just wanted to make sure we got a clean 12. We're getting 11.8 on that, so that's good. Well, we're finally on the way to carburation and getting very close to firing up this LS-ish Chevrolet Mole Chevpar 318 thing. It's really actually 351 cubic inches, but any Hoosin way. And also, we're going to throw on this 600 CFM Holley electro-digital choke fuel make it happener. This is the one that I had on it when this engine was in the Dart, and it did just fine. So we're going to bolt this thing back up. Going to try to find a new stud kit. The other one was pretty marred up from the engine pull plate. There was some slop in there and kind of messed up the threads and whatnot. I mean, cross thread technically is nature's free Loctite, but I also want to make sure we got a good seat on this. So I'll go dig through my cardboard box laying on the floor, try to find a carb stud kit. Plop this bad boy on here. Now something to consider is we still got to figure out throttle linkage. This is a weird kind of belt buckle setup. That's probably not going to work for us. We've also got the kick down pressure control, TV, fluid capacitor, pressure regulator, Mopar Life cable that no one really understands. We just know that something needs to be connected from here to the transmission, and it does a thing. So we're going to peg that up for now. But anyway, we can definitely fire this up, free rev it. I shouldn't have to dial this fuel make it happener in. Dulcich and I already did that on the road. I mean, we went through this thing front to back, back to front, 52.5 times through every elevation, situation, burnout you can imagine. So it should just be a fill the bowl, hook up fuel, hit the ignition. It should light off, hopefully. All right, I got some VIP small engine premixed fuel. Well, technically it's a small block, so I think we're doing just fine. This has got some 2-cycle oil in it. It's 50-1. It's going to be a little easier for this fella. We're going to do our best to fill it. The bowl anyway. I'm spilling most right down the old butterfly. That's fine. We're going to heavily flood it, I guess. Oh, we're doing better. We're getting there. Oh, that's way too much. Perfect. We got a Wix 3/8 filter in line. Everything's hooked up. We got a throttle return spring. We don't have a throttle cable yet, but I should be able to crank this thing, and maybe, just maybe, it's going to fire up and idle. Unlikely. Very. Might have to hook the lone wolf up. But, nonetheless, we're going to get this thing fired up. For the first time in, well, a few months. Last time this shut off, it just finished a several 100-mile trip at 3,000 RPM with Dulcich giggling behind the wheel, just sanding it. So, see what happens. I don't think I need to give it any more gas, but just in case, I don't know what's happening. I think we're gonna need to choke though. So let's roll a key on. That should be supposed to be giving me something, but it's not really giving me anything. All right, park, here we go. It's trying, and that was a weird noise, but ignore it. Did you have Taco Bell for dinner? I don't understand what's going on here, do you? Okay, we need the Lone Wolf 6000. I've got to visualize what's going on. I think we might have a stuck needle. We got too much going into the bowl area. And we're getting some weird vent noises. That's what sounds like refried beans and too much hot sauce. Perfect. Okay, let's try her again. Bring in the thunders. Well, she's alive. She's cold-blooded, but man, does it sound good. There's a Hughes cam in here. It's about a 650 lift. It's got 1.7 ratio rockers. It's got all the lift in this thing. And it sounds mighty fine at idle. It's going to take a little bit to get enough heat in this thing to idle. We still don't have ice cube juice in it or anything like that. But it's alive. It fires right up. I think it's time we put this thing in the air, get a couple sticks of pipe on this thing, and we can start testing mufflers. We've got a handful of them here. I don't even know what's happening. Let me lay them out and figure out what we got. We're gonna try to slip a few on. We'll fire it up, crack it a couple times, and hopefully we agree, because there ain't no going back. You know what I mean? On which one we're gonna run on here. I want it to be a mullet breaker, but you can sneak into bingo, if that makes sense. It's kind of what I'm looking for here. Oh, I'm glad this engine is back. It's a heartbreaker. Oh, hey there. Welcome to Derek's non-fictional storytelling time. In the first iteration of Muffler Minute. I don't know what that means, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But listen, there's 5 mufflers here, and we gotta know what they sound like. So what we're gonna do is slip each and every one of these onto the Duster, give her some cracks, let our ear meters do the judging, and hopefully we end up agreeing on the same exact muffler. I'm looking for something, you roll through the trailer park, all the lights are flipping on, but you can still snip it into bingo. No one's, offended. Run it down to the tavern, get back home. Sounds good, medium-ish, quiet-ish. Not really a cop chaser, you know what I mean? So let's run through the mufflers we got here to test. We've got a Flowmaster Super 10 series. Now this is known as one of their more aggressive mufflers. This has been around for a long time. It's the only chambered muffler on the table here. The rest of these have some sort of packing in them or perforations and whatnot. Now, me personally, these kind of have a pop canish tinny sound, but in some applications, man, do they actually sound really good. These are made in China, just saying. That's where they're made. Next, we got the Borla Pro XS. These are actually made in good old Bristol, Tennessee, right here in the US of A. This is a stainless muffler. They seem to be very well built. They kind of have just a jog. It's a flow-through design with a bunch of packing in the sides. My 70s ramp truck or wedge truck actually has these in it, the black crew cab wedge truck there. And I was kind of surprised. They have a late 70s, early 80s kind of glass pack sound, but they're not overly cracky. They don't have a lot of back wrap to them. They sound pretty decent. It's going to be interesting to see what they sound like on this 318, which is a significantly more compression. Then we've got the old Flowmaster FX. Again, this is made in China. This is just a straight flow-through design with what they pretend to be fiberglass or some sort of packing through it. It's basically more or less an echo chamber. I do have these on the blue Chevelle, which sounds very nasty. I actually really, really like the way that that thing sounds. These are also the second set of mufflers. There's 4 mufflers on the red dually, the Volunteer dually truck. And these are the rear mufflers to kind of give it a rasp or more of an aggressive tone. That's what's on that. Next, we have the Magnaflow Universal Muffler. I have never heard these personally. These are made right here in US of A. Again, these just have a slight jog to them. They're more of, well, you can see right through the things. They got some sort of packing in them. Who knows what kind of science is on the different sides. I can definitely see there's some sort of shapes or something in here. I don't know. What are you? It doesn't talk to me. So we'll try that thing out. Very, very interested to see what that sounds like. And this here is a Porter muffler. These guys stopped by Volunteer Muffler and Exhaust and said, hey, try these things out. And they dropped this set off here. This is a very unique design. I don't think I've ever seen this. These are made right here in Wisconsin, USA. There's a spiral bound coil through here. And the rest of it kind of looks like a traditional glass pack. And these things are beefy. I mean, 30 pounds probably? I don't know. I retired as a power lifter a couple of years ago. Couldn't really tell you. So we're going to jump around a little bit here, but listen, I got to see what these Porter equipped things sound like. This is start right here. Throw these blue things on, see what they sound like, and then we'll jump around a little bit. Yeah. All right, so obviously nothing's going to change. Same header. We're going to have the same stick of pipe. It's true duals. There's no H or X pipe in here whatsoever. We've got the Porters on first. I'll lower this down. We'll get you guys behind the car. We'll fire it up, rap on it a couple times, chew on it, and just keep moving through the line. And then you guys can bleep bloop down below what you think as far as sound, aggressiveness, quality, reverberation, harmonics, decibel. I don't know. Whatever you think. You know what I mean? But I want to really try to get the right sounding mufflers on this thing, and I'm kind of excited. I've never done this before. Actual test between units. All right, we got the Porters. I guess I should mention this is stainless steel packing, not your traditional glass packing. I mean, not terribly bad. They don't sound super cheesy, I'll give them that. But we haven't heard anything else yet. So let's go ahead and grab, I can't see what's next. Magnaflow? Let's put them on. See what those sound like. Magnaflow's being slipped on. The welds look nice and they're stainless, right?
They are stainless.
Yeah, so that's a last a lifetime. Okay, Magnaflow universal muffler things just slid on. They're, don't pay attention to the angle or none of that. We're just going for sound here. Let's drop this down, fire it up, see what these sound like. Okay, Magnaflow. Universals. Bringing the thunder on them. Oh, very deep, throaty. Okay, I'm a fan. Big fan of that. Sounds aggressive, not drony, very deep tone. Actually, kind of a similar tone to the Porter, wasn't it? Pretty close.
Similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure was.
So okay, next, the Flow FXs. These should definitely be louder just from experience because I've got a few of these. Flow FX is on. These are also stainless steel. Some really nice looking. These are machine welds, obviously, but they seem to be decently built. But let's get it on the ground, see what this sounds like on the 318 here. Okay, Flowmaster FX on the Duster. These should be pretty rowdy. Finally getting heat in the motor, it wants to run. Yeah, those definitely sound. Let's go to the grocery store, get a loaf of bread, some Little Debbie's, and go run the 8th mile kind of sound right there. I like it. Let's pan it up. I don't know what you guys are thinking. Next, let's go to the Flowmaster Super 10s. I haven't heard these in a while. Last time I heard these was on a 460 big block, about 6,000 RPM, and I loved them. But this is a completely different setup. And listen, you guys know this. Compression ratio, engine displacement, primary tubes of headers, the type of exhaust tubing you're using, the length of tubing, where you position a muffler, H-pipe, X-pipe, all changes the tone of a vehicle. So you could say, I don't like this muffler, but you might love it on this rig. And that's why we're trying a few. And big thanks to Volunteer Muffler and Performance for bringing all these up here and let me try on a smorgasbord before I finally decide on one and burn it in. It really helps. Super 10s are pushed on, and I'm not a muffler guy, but I kind of think that maybe these might be the loudest we got. What do you think, Chad?
It's going to be kind of hard to say because when you get a muffler with packing in them, they do tend to get a little louder over time. They kind of have a break-in period with the packing gets a little loose, gets a little louder. But with the chambered muffler, what you got from the get-go is usually what you're going to have.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And the good thing about the 10 series is it is stainless steel, whereas the 40s usually come in aluminum steel.
Okay, there you go. Some advice from a career-long muffler guy. These are going to last a little bit longer than any time you get a chambered. The sound is the sound. It's not going to change. I remember back in high school, we'd buy cheap glass packs and then try to blow the packing out of them to get them louder and stuff like that, but you're not going to have the opportunity or anything like that with this. But anyway, let's get them on the ground, see what these puppies sound like. Okay, we got the Flowmaster Super 10s going hot, Bay 1. Here we go. Pretty good. That was pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, I don't know. What do you guys think so far? They're all over the board. What do we have left? We got Borla. What's the model? Pro. Yeah. Let's put the Borlas on. We're gonna have to chew on this for a minute. I'm not even gonna tell you my favorite so far. It's probably not what you're thinking. I got 2 of them. Well, that was really good actually. I don't even know. Let's just put the Borlas on. Okay, we got the Borla Pro Hawks, or whatever they are, on here. Let's see what we got. They don't sound that bad. It's just they don't really change with RPM like I thought they would. And the tone definitely isn't as deep as the Magnaflow or the Porters or the Super 10s, to be honest. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Similar? I don't know. You guys bleep bloop it for a minute. We're going to raise this up, tear these off. Might end up flipping a coin, but listen, something's got to get welded on. It's super late. Let's see if we choose the same one. You're going to find out in a minute. Well, here's the dealio. We went back and forth here. I think everyone's got their pros, everyone's got their cons. The hard part is for me, I'm not going to be driving this thing. Someone else is going to win this car. And I don't know if they're 18 years old or 75, or they're going to daily drive it or hot rod it or race it or weekend cruise it. So I'm in between a rock and a pickle. I don't know what to do. But I think what I settled on is the Magnaflow, because it had a nice, deep, but soft tone that didn't tickle your brain. But when you rapped on it, she sounded angry. And it's a nice quality muffler. It's stainless. The welds look really nice. Hopefully it lasts a long time. I don't know. Never used it. But we're going to go ahead and put them on. But to make it a little bit louder, we're just going to do turn downs right at the axle, dump it into the concrete. So when this thing is cackling at idle, because she's got a big old thumbstick in her, it's going to sound pretty darn nice. So Chad's going to jump under there, burn these puppies in really quick. Boom, exhaust done, running. I am super excited. It's also 11:30 million, 9 or early o'clock on some other day that I don't know. Sweet. All right, Chad from Volunteers got the exhaust on, back on the ground. Oh, yes, sir. Oh man, that sounds good. Nice deep tone. It's got a good pop to it. Of course, this engine's 10.5 to 1. Yeah, that sounds really good. Boom. The Duster is alive. Man, we've done a lot of work to this point, but we're nowhere near done. There's a tremendous amount of work that I still want to do to this car. Yes, it's running. We still haven't driven it. I still got some mechanical to go through yet. I got to check the brakes, check the rear end, some small things like that, but we've got to address the interior. We've got to address the paint. And we've got to change the look of this thing. We've still got tires and wheels. There's a long ways to go. This car is going to be absolutely awesome when it's done. And again, just a reminder, you can win this car now through December 4th. Every $5 you spend at vicegripgarage.com gets you one entry towards a chance to win this beautiful machine right here. Thanks guys for watching. Appreciate you so very much. Hey, we're going to see you very soon. We got to build to finish. Thanks guys. Appreciate you. All right, time to clean up. Boy, that's a late one. Oh, it's raining. That's good. We need it. We do need it.